Hello, everybody. Mariner here, and welcome to Net That Haul and a new venture for us where we are going to review Gabe's and myself's matchups from which we predicted last week. And who else could we ask to join us, Gabe, but our very good friend from Malaysia, Lucian, aka FPL Teacher. You need to unmute yourself, my friend, but how are you doing?
Oh, well, it's midnight here, and I am quite excited. Like, I literally stayed all night for this, and I cannot wait to start. I cannot wait to start.
Perfect. Gabe, how are you?
Man, I'm so excited to jump into this show. Lucian and I have been talking about something like this for a long time now, and who better like to review us and grade our matchups than the FPL teacher himself? So let's just dive right into this sucker.
Righty-ho. So first things first, I'm just going to put a summary slide up for the game week, just for a very split second. We don't need to go through the scores, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mention one or two of the performers who actually, the top few performers of the game week. And we have right at the top, Rafael Varane at 14 points for Manchester United. With an able assist from Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Gabe, who I was talking up in the preseason. You all took them. Mick out of me. I love you all dearly.
Mariner, it's raining in the desert, Mariner. It's raining in the desert.
Rodrigo, one of the first price rises in the game. We love the casuals. Obviously, Haaland, 13 points. Isak, 13 points. Really interesting. Leno, another player who was talked about a lot in preseason, 12, along with Wan-Bissaka. Disasi, never heard of him. One of your mates, Gabe, Harvey Barnes, 11 points. How long is it going to be before he's in your team, my friend?
Hey, I wrote about Harvey Barnes. I mentioned him in the matchup, so I'm not surprised that he came in as an impact player. He is an impact player.
Yes, let's not spoil that. Then, of course, ably assisted by Saka, Visser, Solly March. I'm Solly, not Solly. And Anderson and Onana. There we go, down to 9 points. So that's the top scorers of the game week. How many did you have, guys? Pop it in the chat. Let us know who you had. Because did anyone have Varane? Did anyone have Varane? I had Shaw, and he picked the booking up. I love him dearly. Right then, should we get going? I'm going to go with the first game. I'm going to go straight across. We're not going to mess around tonight. We're going to dive straight in. And we are going to go with Burnley against Manchester City, Gabe. I'll just very much summarise it. We thought it was going to be an easy night for Manchester City, basically. The NetxG thought that way. The fixture difficulty pretty much thought that way. Lefts and central zonals as well. What happened?
Tell us, teacher.
Well then, what I've done basically is look through each slide to identify key points where that, potentially summarize where City would get a competitive advantage over whatever opponents they get. And I've done that for all 10 slides. So really what I've done is that I've looked at literally all the people involved in the matchups and summarized it all here. So here we go. First things first, with City, let's start with the straightforward case. Gabe mentioned in the slide here that it depended all on a dribbler, such as Grealish. Well, Grealish didn't start, but neither did a dribbler surface, unfortunately. In fact, it was City's defense that caused Burnley all sorts of problems. So it's okay. I mean, predicting Pep Roulette is already difficult as it is, let alone picking their actual strategy. And I think at this point, the key takeaway is that with City, with KDB injured especially, it's just difficult to tell if we can even predict Pep's plan A. And we should just go with how, if you have the tallest guy in the basketball team, your primary strategy is to just give the ball to the tallest guy, right? Haaland is exactly that. Haaland is exactly that, literally the tallest guy on the pitch. And you just give the ball to him and let him do his thing. I think the only other benefactor would be Julian Alvarez, because with KDB's injury, you have a lot of overloads on the right side, and that basically frees up the likes of Walker, Foden, and whoever just to play in Alvarez and Haaland. They're the ones waiting in the box. As simple as that. Now, as for Burnley, well, their front three is virtually unrecognizable, which is refreshing. It just means that their strategy is completely different. So the takeaway here is that they've got one experienced guy in Lau Foster, and then they've got another in Koleosho, who's like the 18-year-old prodigy. And it just comes down to whether you prefer chaos in the 18-year-old youngster or you want someone with more guile, because Burnley are hunting in packs. That's the plan. Although it remains to be seen whether they do that against inferior opposition. But that's about it.
Didn't take long for Haaland to score, did it? I'd only just sat down with the bottle of Heineken Zero, Gabe, and bang, it was already in the back of the net. What do you have to think about this one? Did we get it right, or did we not see anything coming?
No, I mean, I think we identified some weaknesses, and Pep just went in a different direction, right? He didn't go with his dribblers. He didn't go with chaos. He just went like Lucian said. He basically played this game like you play the game of basketball, a strong link sport. And I think that's what Lucian's telling us is that the plan B, like the plan A for Pep is always going to be hit the strong link. I heard about the, that Foden was starting. So I moved Madison to Foden, and I was extremely frustrated as a Foden owner seeing Foden in and around the touches and not in and around the shots. And every time he was there ready to take a shot, Julian and Holland and even other players were like in front of him. So it's interesting to hear Lucian kind of like talk up Julian Alvarez, because that might be, the double switch in next game week or something like that, just something to watch out for. So I don't really think we got this one right per se, but I do think we learned a lot from it.
I think we'll learn a lot from most of the matches, really, won't we, going forwards? It's like anything, we didn't know anything, and this is the difficulty with these matchups: is you're really starting from a blank canvas and putting the oil painting together. Well, Lucian is anyway. So okay, what I'll do then, if without further ado, is I'll keep going, because I think it's important to try and keep up to speed on this one. And the next one's Arsenal against Nottingham Forest, and another very, very interesting game from my side. I did manage to catch a bit of it. First things first, obviously Gabriel was an absolute unmitigated disaster for myself. I didn't hear the team leak, so I was livid. But anyway, that's another story. With respect to the matchup itself, NetxG had Arsenal at 2.1, Forest at 1. It did think Forest would score touche to NetxG. Whereas my fixture difficulty was a bit more positive for Arsenal, 3.2 and 2.1. Perhaps it thought there might be a clean sheet. It did expect that Arsenal would dominate big chances, shots on target, shots on box and headers. They didn't really. Lucian, what's your perspective on this one?
Well, Chris, majority of this slide was focused on the effect of new boy Kai Havertz. So let's talk about what Kai Havertz did. I think the issue here is that with Gabriel's injury, Thomas Partey filled in at right back, and that changed a lot. See, the thing about Partey is that he favors this massive connection with Bukayo Saka down the right side, and Odegaard being on the right side basically linked the three of them together pretty much the entire of the first half. So even though Kai Havertz made these wonderful runs beyond the back line of Forest, they just weren't used. And every time Partey had the ball in midfield or right back, it just went straight to Saka. And to be fair, Bukayo Saka was on fire. Like, he had chances down the flanks, he crossed, he shot, and he scored a worldie from outside. Virtually everything went down that side in the first half, and even Martinelli himself joined in the fun, really. From the left wing, he went all the way down to the right half space, and that was how they pressed their advantage. So in that sense, this slide, I think, has some truth to it, besides the prediction that Trossard would start as the number 9, because Trossard did come on. He did play the number 9, but more as a more disciplined, aggressive, counter-pressing kind of number 9, which did get some chances late on, but I think that wouldn't pop up in the stats. But that's about it, really.
We didn't see Nketiah coming either, did we, really, Gabe? And, of course, he started, so maybe, I don't know whether that's because it's more of an easy game, perhaps. What's your perspective of this? Clearly, the Gabriel issue was something that hurt me deeply. We didn't see the zonal matchup either, clearly, because everything went down the right. But what's your view? I think you're muted. We've lost you for a second, mate. I don't know, Gabe. I've lost your sound.
Sorry. I'm getting into the habit of muting myself, but I'm not used to it yet because when I type the keys, we got a comment on that. So bear with me while I get used to it. So I actually I'm really I like what we did in this slide actually, despite the quote unquote wrong calls. I updated the slide before I posted the thread in the matchup. So here I said I expect Nketiah to lead the front line. I did change that to Trossard when I posted the thread. And he was great on the counter press. I thought he'd be used more. I thought he'd be used to stretch the lines a little bit more. But I think the call on Havertz is still correct. So the idea was like that positional change that Lucien was talking about. Partey goes to right back. That right side is firing. Saka played out of his mind in that game, and like in the Community Shield, he didn't show half of what he showed in this game. So what the matchups prediction failed to account for was Saka's changing form from the Community Shield to this game. But the ideas of the concepts behind what they're trying to do at Arsenal, I think, were correct. Like Lucien mentioned, Havertz still making those runs to the far post. That side was still open. He was doing all the things, but they almost like didn't need to go to that side because they're more, I guess, players that have been on the team longer. That right side were connecting. So like if the old school boys are connecting, why disrupt that and keep it going? So but I think. But I would say we got this one mostly right. Like I'm happy with the Havertz pick despite the outcomes here. Yeah, Saka burned me, but I'm not dissatisfied with the pick overall because I think we're on to the right concepts in this slide.
Yeah, it was interesting that Arsenal's numbers weren't particularly high, and Forest actually looked quite attacking. In fact, they should have led because Johnson missed a sitter as well very early on. I did celebrate running through a mall in Dubai when Arsenal scored, given the fact Forest scored, given the fact I didn't own with the Gabriel issue. I think people thought I was mad, but well, I am. But anyway, there we go. Should we keep going? Let's go to the next one. The next one was Bournemouth against West Ham. Another interesting one. First thing I'll say is we did say about Solanke, didn't we? 44% involvement, and here presto, here he turned up again. We called that in pre-season, just wish he was a bit cheaper. I might even have owned him, Gabe. The actual fixture itself, 1.3, 1.4, NetxG, didn't suggest much, really. Bournemouth, fixture difficulty 2.1, attack, so it did think they were going to get something defence-wise, not pretty neutral. West Ham it didn't really like, but maybe we're missing the Jared Bowen factor here. Lucien, what's your view?
Well, for every Bukayo Saka, there's going to be a Jared Bowen. I think the worldie is that both of them scored virtually from the identical position. I wouldn't say that Jared Bowen was on fire though. They kept looking for Bowen. So this slide revolves around those two players, right? Bowen and Solanke. And although statistically everything matched up, principally everything went completely different. There was this interesting stat where I think West Ham had like 11 shots in the box, but none of them had an XG of over 0.10. It was mad. It's like West Ham can have all the dominance they want, and they just come up with low quality chances from set pieces. So Bowen's getting a lot of the ball, but he's not taking the chances himself. They're still going back to set pieces to get all their big chances. Now, with Solanke, it's a little bit different because whoever's watched highlights will know that Solanke's goal basically came from a deflected shot from outside after substitutions. However, throughout the game, they did look for Solanke directly. The issue here is that Bournemouth's plan A under Iraola is not in full effect. That's the problem. So whatever we've read about Iraola and all the good things he's done revolving around Philip Billing and wide fullbacks and whatever you've read, not being done as of right now. So there's still a work in progress, and I cannot say that Solanke is the ultimate playmaker because the plan A is just not firing at the moment. That's the key takeaway.
Yeah, you said about West Ham, 12 shots in the box, one big chance. So, yeah, interesting. Okay, let's keep moving on because the next one is another one that I was very bullish about, Gabe. I was extremely bullish about Brighton battering Luton. I had to wait quite a long time for my prediction to come true, but it did in the end. Luton, I thought, were, shall we say, that they tried. I'll give them 7 out of 10 for effort. They really tried. To be fair, they made it difficult. The NetxG suggested that Brighton would have a relatively easy day, 2.3, but it suggested Luton might score. Although I don't know how we predicted it, given the fact we didn't have any data. On the fixture difficulty, Brighton absolutely loved Brighton. It said 5.3. Well, I think I said 5-1. In the game itself. But what he did predict was tons and tons of chances, big chances, 3.6 shots on target, 7.7, 15 shots in the box it predicted. I'll just have to see how many it was, actually. How many shots in the box did Brighton have? They had 20. Lucian, over to you.
Right, so this is going to sound even more convincing because, well, here's the thing about Brighton. The moment they scored, the moment they went 3-1 up, they created more big chances from XG in like the final 10 minutes of the game compared to the 90 minutes before it. Those injury time substitutions really changed the game. I think the weird thing here about Luton in general, right, is that you always wonder which of their side would collapse first. Would their player quality show, or would something about their tactics let them down? And in the first half, it was all tactics because their two central midfielders, Chong and Mpanzu, were unusually aggressive. So, Brighton just punish you with that. And if Luton have 2 players on the flank, Brighton will have 3. That's really it. And they just kept going and going and going and going. If it's not Estupinian, it's going to be Joao Pedro. If it's not Joao Pedro, it's going to be Pascal Gross all the way in the 90th minute. And it just came down to a simple error by a Luton player. I think it was Mpanzu, actually, who gave the ball in the box for Adingra's score. And that was it. Everything just went mad after the 90th minute. So I think we can at least say that Brighton will be Brighton. They will punish weaknesses. And Luton have multiple issues to fix. One from a tactical perspective and one from a player perspective where they still make a lot of errors that will definitely be punished in the Premier League.
Gabe, 27 shots, 12 on target, 20 in the box, 7 outside the box, 6 big chances, 5 headers, non-penalty XG 3.29. Brighton did what Brighton do.
And aberration, right? I mean, 6 big chances. This is, I think 3.6 big chances predicted for Brighton, I thought was quite robust. I think I would count that as a correct prediction. If the game didn't get out of hand, it probably would have been between 3 and 4, right? And the game got out of hand because of the factors that Lucian was talking about. What I like about the prediction here is one, NetxG got the goal for Luton, right? Predicted that goal for Luton, and I think that's going to be a thing with Brighton defense. They are systemically not set up to defend for the game, right? Because they push forward so much. So I think they will be conceding in most games. And then the other thing, maybe it wasn't balls directly from Steele to the wingers to get numbers up situations. But that's exactly what they're trying to do. Using the wingers to get even 1v1s, Mitoma 1v1 versus any Luton player. Like Lucian was talking about, player quality, right? When you're playing against these promoted teams, you get a 1v1, and that's basically a 2v1. Mitoma against any promoted defender is a matchup that you'd like to see. So I expect Brighton to really find those matchups, especially in those wide areas. Solly March, Mariner, you talked about Solly March in our defenders show with Craig Kemp from the Man On Pod, and we mentioned that side, and basically all the sides, everyone got a return for Brighton, did. But March will be good until he loses his spot to Kudu. So I would say this was mostly a correct prediction for us.
Well, we also need to give credit to Andy Martin as well, who suggested that there could be a penalty, and indeed there was. And you rightly predicted, Gabe, that it was Pedro who was on them thankfully, he hit it hard enough because the keeper went the right way. I was very worried
Oh,
about
the keeper guessed great, but it was so well struck. João Pedro should have missed shouldn't have missed that one in like the 5th minute as well. He could have really hauled. And Gerard from Fantasy Pavilion captained him.
Wow!
So hats off to him.
Wow. Yeah, kudos to him. Well, balls to him. I say not balls, big balls. It was have big balls to do that. So I'll tell you what, there's a few decisions on captaincy which I wouldn't necessarily agreed with this week. But anyway, there we go. Let's keep going. Everton against Fulham. Well. Everton are doing what Everton do, Gabe. We didn't expect much from them with NetxG 0.9 against Fulham's 1.5. Obviously, we weren't sure about these Fulham numbers, given the fact we weren't sure about Mitrovic and things like that. Everything else was very neutral, to be quite honest, with the matchups. Couldn't really call it. I think we went low scoring. We were right to go low scoring. Lucian, what's your view?
So the slide addresses two things. First of all, the injured McNeil, and that spot was taken up by Iwobi, who basically ran the show. But I'm not going to talk about Iwobi so much because it's a temporary matchup that favors Everton more than anything. I'd like to actually comment on the physical presence of Doucouré as well as Onana, who traditionally operated in the half spaces. So yes, they were still there, but Doucouré himself actually played better as a number 10. So really, like, it's either Iwobi on the left doing magic things on the day, or Doucouré himself playing the number 10, dribbling himself into the box. I think he had this massive chance early in the game that was pretty much just him doing things as the support striker and doing the simple things well. I think the more interesting observation that I came across here had to do with Fulham, because Fulham were horrendous down the right side. And the biggest factor that we did not consider was Andreas Pereira. People think that Fulham are going to be weak because they didn't have Joao Palhinha, but wow, Andres Pereira had a knee surgery done over the long break and he was not fit. So they lost their shape completely. They decided to have Kenny go in there and it was an absolute disaster. They had too much space to manage through one guy, and Everton just kept attacking their left, and they were just really, really fortunate that all of Neil Maupai's shots were literally at Leno. So, I mean, that's all I can comment, really.
I was just going to say that. I didn't watch this game, but I'm just looking at the statistics, and you know me, I tend to look at the statistics, and I thought, well, hang on a minute, there's a hell of a lot of XG here, and then I thought, oh, there's a hell of a lot of XG for Neil Maupai, including 2 big chances which he missed, 4 shots, 3 on target, 4 in the box. A 1.1 non-penalty XG for Neil Maupai on his own, Gabe. Everton couldn't hit a barn door from a yard. Fulham targetable?
I think like Lucian said, target that Fulham's right side. So the opposition's left playing Fulham. Who do Fulham play next?
Good question. They
Chelsea.
play Brentford. Brentford away. Brentford at home, sorry. Brentford at home. Local derby.
Yeah, Brentford at home. So, I mean, with Tony, that would be a little bit easier to analyze. I'd have to dig deeper into that one to see how Brentford will kind of build up through that left side, if they will, and also if they sign Nicolas Gonzalez this week. But what I liked about this one was like highlighting Doucouré. Doucouré kind of came into prominence at the end of last season. But he was more advanced, and like Lucian was saying, that I think highlighting Doucouré was the right thing, but the way we highlighted Doucouré was maybe not exactly accurate. I expected Doucouré like to be involved in the build-up, and then once the ball gets forward to a target, to then be involved in that second ball. But Doucouré was on the ball, wasn't he, Lucian? And he was just like carrying the ball into the box. And I think the call, the wide with McNeil, we got it right. It was just the wrong player. Obviously, McNeil injured, so that player was Iwobi, who's played all over the lineup for this team in years, and he's so versatile and. I mean, maybe somewhat talismanic in terms of spirit, at least. But I mean, both like tracking the ball and creating. I think Iwobi is very important to the team.
Oh, sorry. I need to make one last comment on Pickford because that was part of the thread. Pickford basically had nothing to do because Everton pressed as a collective that basically, yeah, just let Pickford sit on a chair with a newspaper, watch the game go by until Fulham decided to wake up in the second half.
Yeah, so really quickly on that, like I highlighted the wrong goalkeeper in the sense that you want the goalkeeper facing Maupay first of all. So should have known if it's Maupay, get the opposing goalie. And then on Everton's side, Sean Dyche, he has changed the way he has set up teams in the past, or as throughout his career. But what hasn't changed is he's still like defending in groups and blocking shots. So those shots don't get to the keeper. I think Lucien was saying only one shot got to Pickford and it went in. So, and I think Libero on Twitter was saying, people choosing Pickford targeting the easy fixtures didn't realize that Pickford is the easy fixture. Everton is the easy fixture. So yeah, Leno would have been a better shout there in hindsight.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Might be playing Turner this week myself. Anyway, there we go. Let's keep going. And the next fixture, gents, is Sheffield United at home against Crystal Palace. And we thought Crystal Palace would probably do them. We gave Sheffield United half a chance of at least scoring on the NetxG game, 0.9. Crystal Palace 1.8. The Zonals and the Fixture Difficulty all like Crystal Palace, but that's a massive pinch of salt because of the fact we don't have the data on Sheffield United. What I will say is Sheffield United generated 0.13 non-penalty XG, and Crystal Palace generated 2.07, two big chances, 17 shots in the box against Sheffield United's 4. Lucien, over to you.
Well then, I'm going to address the straightforward points. First and foremost, there is mention of Benin Traore as a dribbler. He didn't need to dribble because Sheffield United was so direct. It was basically just the forwards pulling wide and waiting for the central midfielders of either Norwood or Osborne to get into the box. Really, the game plan was very simple. Now, over to Crystal Palace, and there's a lot of hype on Eze. So the thing about Eze is that we all expect him to be talismanic, do all the things that he needs to do, but we continue to underrate the supporting cast around Eze, which is Jordan Ayew as well as Jeffrey Schlupp. So the two wingers here actually did a lot more work for Odsonne-Edouard, and what they actually exposed was, as well as Luton, the inferior quality of their centre-backs. You can make their centre-backs names as long as you want. The centre-backs still are quite slow to react to runners such as Odsonne-Edouard. And if you're slow to Odsonne-Edouard, you know that you've got a problem with this league. One last thing about Palace's defensive evaluation, because the slide also mentioned that we might underestimate them. Palace themselves don't do anything fantastic defensively. They just manage the game very well. Roy Hodgson did not make a single substitution across 90 minutes tactically, which meant that he just looks at things and if he sees that things are working, stay the same. He doesn't even have to make a defensive substitution to close out the game. He just knows when to just leave it as it is.
I think he was too busy having a punch-up, wasn't he? I heard a rumour he was having a bit of a carve-up on the side. I was told about that. I said, how old is he? Come on, man, you don't need to do that.
Good for him.
Okay, but I'll say this. I thought Crystal Palace would have a harder time up at Sheffield. They really did a job on them by the look of things. Really did a job on them.
Yeah, I actually haven't seen this game, so I don't know too much about it other than the stats and what I've heard from Lucien. But I think one thing is just because a player is a talisman doesn't mean that they can do it all, and I think that's what Lucien's getting to. I mean, when you mention the names Schlupp and Ayew, I know for a fact that I'm underrating these players, but also they perform that they're so they're so good at performing the specific role that Roy needs them to perform in terms of supporting as a or just like, I mean, it depends on the game. So I don't know if I don't want assets from a team that are depending on these players, on Ayew and Schlupp, because I think that's a plan that's bound to break down. So I don't know. I'm quite skeptical of Crystal Palace moving forward. I got to be honest.
That'll be interesting to see. Yeah, we'll see on that one. I actually am a little bit more bullish on them. I did pick Johnson out pre-season. I wasn't quite sure about this fixture, to be fair. I thought they might concede here. So I actually think people who are set with Johnson are actually set fairly fair right now, if you ask me. Okay, before we move on, guys, we're at nearly 30 minutes in. So if you wouldn't mind hitting like, if there's 49 people with us at the moment, which is lovely, but please, if you haven't already hit like, please hit like. If you really like what we do, hit subscribe. And if you really, really, really like what you do, come and become a hauler and join the community. And we did a new thing on the community, Gabe, didn't we? This time, just before deadline, we had a voice channel open in the Discord chat where we had lots of discussion for an hour pre-deadline. I think we're going to carry on doing that. So we have our own deadline stream. We unfortunately, we did get some of the leaks. We just didn't get all of the leaks. Oh, I certainly didn't. Anyway, I was too busy messing around. In fact, I think I was messing about with work, actually. I had to jump off at one stage to do something with work. But hey-ho, these things happen. So yeah, hit like, hit subscribe. And if you really, really like what we do, we'd love you to become a hauler like Lucian, who is a super hauler. So Lucian, he's gone. Just
he quit.
Where's he gone? Anyway, I don't know what to do now, Gabe. Do we just wait for him to come back?
We can go to the next matchup. We can start talking about it. Lucian will come back. This is our first go around, so please bear with us while we deal with a couple tech issues.
He's back. Hopefully, he sounds okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, right. Sheffield United's done. Crystal Palace. We've just been having a bit of a laugh at you. I was just singing your praises, Lucian, and then you just disappeared. But anyway, there we go. There's another story. There's always chaos at Net That Haul, and there was chaos at St James's Park. Gabe, what a lead into that one. We predicted Aston Villa with a NetxG of 0.9, Newcastle of 1.3 on NetxG. I called it a bit better, 4.5. Fixture difficulty and 2.2, although it did think they were going to keep a clean sheet. Villa had something to say about that. We did think about 3.5 big chances. we were only 6 out, 5.5 out. There was 9 big chances for Newcastle. They've broken my metric. I don't know what to do about that. I might have to recalculate it. 14 shots in the box, 13 on target. 17 shots in total, 4.61 non-penalty XG. Lucian, before I let Gabe loose to rant at Unai Emery's tactics, I'd like you to just give us a view on the matchup.
Okay, so can you guys hear me?
Oh, you're quiet. You're a bit quiet all of a sudden.
So, Villa's narrow formation fell prey to Newcastle.
No, we've lost you. Your sound's terrible. Gabe, do you try and sort your sound out, Lucy, in a second? Gabe, come back to you.
Yeah, so this match again got out of hand. It got out of control. The one thing I'll say is, I wrote it at the bottom there. Aston Villa to score and Watkins to be involved. And he got the assist. And I didn't write Watkins to score for a reason, because I do think, and we talked about this on the matchups show last week, that I think Diaby is going to siphon chances from Watkins in terms of goal scoring, and they're going to kind of cannibalize each other. So Diaby is probably much better value. Watkins never felt right in my team. I think after watching that game, if you are a Watkins owner, you might be a little bit concerned. But also, don't act too early on any information we get in just one game week, because once teams adapt to Diaby, that could open things back up for Watkins. So we have to be patient, but these are just all initial observations. I didn't expect Isak to play the 9. I expected it to be Callum Wilson, and Isak showed why it's not a competition. Isak is he's just a class quality player. The finishes he had were incredible. Hold on, I think is Lucian back?
Okay, you're back, Lucian.
Yeah, let's give it a go. Is it better now?
That's better. Yeah, that's perfect. Gabe's just given his view. He didn't rant about Emery, which I'm actually quite surprised. I think I'll come back to him for the rant because he normally does rant when there's something like that. I want to ask you a question just very, very early. I was very impressed with Tonali. Is he in your discussions here?
Unfortunately not, because the big chances all fell in the first half and then the wingers took over. So, yeah, it's still all about the wingers, and our focus really should be on whether to buy Isak or Wilson, because everything falls for the number 9, no matter what the wingers do. Strangely, the wingers don't take shots. I find that very, very weird. But beyond that, yeah, sorry.
I mean,
might as well just finish on Villa. Yeah, so I think you've got to update your chances based on Newcastle's left side, because last season they had literally nothing on the left, right? They had no left wingers that actually worked. Whereas this season they have Barnes and Anthony Gordon both actually working really well. The other thing is that for Villa, well, everyone's going to blame the injury to Mings, but I think Villa's box in midfield, right? They actually employ Bailey as the winger that defends. Whereas last season, Bailey was actually the second striker, and they allow one of the box midfielders to defend. I think that's something that Emery needs to sort out before Europe begins. Otherwise, they're going to continue suffering down the right-hand side of theirs.
Okay, Gabe, anything to add before we move on?
Yeah, no, I think in the interest of time, we should move on. But what? Am I good? What I'll say just really quickly is yeah, like playing Leon Bailey the way you played him is criminal. Like, just no, like that like he can't do that. He's never done that. You play him in central midfield to defend. It makes absolutely no sense when he's a wide attacking player. So, I mean, yeah, Aston Villa got what they deserved, and this was another just like errant game. Like don't take too much from it. There will be a lot of change. Emery will make a lot of changes tactically and stuff from this game. So I think we've learned more about Newcastle than we have about Villa in this one.
Fair enough. So okay, so moving on to Brentford against Tottenham. Right, there's death, there's taxes, and there's Tottenham conceding a goals away from home, Gabe. Nothing changes there. We did think that would be the case with respect to the fixtures. NetxG saw Brentford at 1.7, Spurs at 1.5, not a million miles off here. Fixture difficulty really liked Brentford, 3.3, and it really didn't like Spurs' defence as a result. It didn't really like Spurs' attack. But of course, it didn't factor in James Maddison, who looked to be very, very involved in everything. Lucian, over to you.
Well, the problem with James Maddison is that they only profited through set pieces. I wrote a thread recently about Spurs and how they would use Maddison in those spaces. And the problem with this system is that they need a number 9 that's willing to run into the half spaces. That is exactly what Richarlison is not. So if you don't have your first choice striker running into the places you want him to, then you have to wait. You have to wait for Son, you have to wait for the fullbacks. And I think the crucial thing here is that Spurs never, ever had the ball on the wing in order for the fullbacks and James Maddison to actually bomb into. So if you notice, a lot of Spurs' biggest chances actually came through set pieces, because in open play, they just never had that ideal setup for them to actually dominate games. Whereas for Brentford, well, without Tony, they've actually taken their supporting cast and just told them, you keep doing what you do, but better. So Frico Henry was bombing down the flanks all by himself, but he was making the runs down the flanks with the ball by himself. Mbomo and Wisa did not need to pull wide at all because there's no Tony to aim for. So instead, they just stood together. Every time Henry went down the left, Mbomo and Wisa were like 10 yards within that space wherever Henry went. So that's how they keep it simple, and that's how they do it well.
I really liked them. I really enjoyed watching the game, actually. I was a bit nervous because I didn't own anybody, but I really enjoyed the game. It was just typical, you know. All the players who I didn't own, all the players who you talk about FPL, all of them returned. Gabe, what was your perspective on it? What about James Maddison? A little bird told me that James Maddison was in one of your drafts and you took him out lastminute.com. No.
It was always the plan to take him out for Foden. I have no regrets. Like, it's still like if I would do it again and again and again and again. And then this week, no, not at all. It was that was always my plan. So what I stuck to my plan. I got Foden in, and he didn't return because of the reasons that we talked about. And Maddison was exactly what we thought he would be. So I don't know. I think those are two calls that both of them were right, and they just had I got the one with the wrong outcome. And it was on a week when everybody else returned. So, like, I don't know. These are the things about FPL that I don't think are really that important. Like, if
it's not,
I'm
pulling your leg, really.
No, but I could, like, some people might be thinking like rage transfer, do I go Foden to Maddison? Maddison has United coming up. That's the spot in my midfield that's going to rotate. So it will become Maddison, who was always my initial my target from game week 3. So yeah, it was unfortunate. I was bummed, but I was happy to see Maddison in and around it. But I was surprised as well. Like Lucien was saying, like those kind of like those designs to get Maddison free in the half space and have what was Kane kind of like dragging the line forward when the wing back pushes forward, creating space for Maddison. That wasn't really happening with Richarlison. And I have to say, in this analysis, I underestimated the Maddison's delivery from set pieces. It's just something
very good.
It was great. Yeah, it was fantastic. And then when that happened, I was like, I can't believe I forgot about that. So fair play. I really, this is an exciting, super entertaining game. I wish I would have kept Maddison.
Yeah, I mean, I pay service charges for Richarlison because I had to get a wheelie bin delivered actually this week because I didn't have one for my new house. Quite frankly, Richarlison was about as much use as a wheelie bin this week. I thought it was absolutely bloody awful. Awful. Now, perhaps he might get settled down. But the thing is with Maddison, of course, is he needs someone to be able to stick the ball away. Son also looked very, very quiet. Son was very quiet, I thought. Maybe not quite back yet. I think he's a watch. He's certainly not somebody who you're going to go for early doors. I don't think.
Quick
was
question for Lucien.
Yes,
Lucien, what do you think about Son and Richarlison trading spots?
I don't think it really makes a difference. I've never seen Son operate in a half space with presence because you need to have presence in that box to actually demand the ball. Same thing with Richarlison. Like the whole purpose of a wide player out wide is just to make incisive passes. So at least I know that Son has passing quality that he can utilize from the flanks. But Richarlison, I still wonder what he does best as a player. But yeah, that's something that remains to be seen.
Okay, keeping going then. So the next one, we've got 2 more to go. We're doing all right for time, Gabe. I'm trying to rattle through this, unlike our normal marathons on the matchup show, and particularly in pre-season, which is Chelsea against Liverpool. Oh my goodness me. As a Chilwell and a Salah owner, I went through so many emotions in that 90 minutes. No, I should say in 45 minutes, actually, because the second half went really quiet. I was bored. But in the first half, I went through so many emotions, from punching the air to punching the settee. I consider myself very unlucky, Lucy, and I'm going to come to you in a second. But before I do that, the numbers said it thought Liverpool would get at least 1 goal, 1.7 on Gabe's NetxG, Chelsea 1.2. But obviously, old Chelsea, not new Chelsea. Fixture difficulties were very neutral. Lots of 0-0 draws in the past. Fixture difficulty thought that, actually, very similar to that. Did think a draw, and he got it right. 1.1, both sides. Nothing much on the zonals and matchups. How did you see the game go?
Would it have ruined your stats if that Salah goal was allowed?
It might ruin my captain metric for next week. Tiny margins is the difference between, I think, a 20k rank, a 100k rank and a 1 million rank. And I think that's the difference where I've been with 2 offsides between, I think, 100k and 1 million. That's how tight it is. But yeah.
Okay, let's continue. Nico Jackson, let's start there, because a lot of us thought that he would just be that pacey player that stretches defenses, but he was absolutely not. He could body Van Dijk. He could sprint. He wanted the ball at his feet. He could link play with Chilwell, especially. I think the most crucial connection here that we've missed for so long is Enzo Fernandez and Reece James working on the right side, not to find Chilwell, but to find Jackson himself. Right? I think we've seen enough now that Reece James doesn't have to cross for Ben Chilwell now. He actually has a legit number 9 to aim at. that's not Lukaku or Aubameyang or some, rubbish forward. So, yeah, hats off to that. Now, for Liverpool, majority of the slide is about the counter press and Diogo Jota. And yes, Diogo Jota did have a target. He targeted Conor Gallagher, and he forced Gallagher into a lot of errors early doors. But when Enzo Fernandez stepped forward, here's where Liverpool's weaknesses showed. They had Gakpo tasked with pressing Enzo Fernandez down, and that did not work. So I think there's still a chink in Liverpool's counter-pressing armor. But as it stands, their right side is superb. I'm not talking about Salah's passing quality or anything like that, but the support runs from Dominic Szoboszlai, as well as the unpredictable nature of Trent, because now people think that he's going to be right back or midfield. People don't think that he's going to do both. I've actually sent multiple screenshots of the game where in the first 15 minutes prior to the opener, Trent was a right back. Between the first goal and the disallowed goal, he was a DM. And then after the disallowed goal, he played right back again. So he changes based on time frames, and that is why we don't notice. That is something we have to sieve through slowly to see how Trent makes that decision. But their right side is definitely flowing, just not in the whole Sadio Mane sort of system. That's all.
Gabe, your perspective on the on Liverpool and Chelsea?
Yeah, I thought Jota would be more effective in this game. But what I didn't account for is that, like what Lucien was talking about, and Reece James and Enzo, like that combination was working really well. And like you said, Nico Jackson was doing everything. I've never seen him do so much in a game in my life. Coming into midfield, botting people off the ball, creating his own passing lanes for the right side to give to him. I thought he played really well, as way more than just the 9 that I expected. So obviously you have to be careful what kind of things you read out there. Like a bunch of people have all sorts of like Liverpool predictions, and this is how Liverpool are going to play. Somebody even posted that they got the prediction right when Trent is playing right back most of the game. They put Trent in central midfield. It's like they started Darwin like that. So like, I don't know, like all I can say is watch the games, watch the fucking games, because
I watched the game
because this Trenton. But this, let me finish my thought real quick. This Trenton midfield narrative, it's a situational thing. He'll go into midfield when other things happen. He's not playing in midfield. He played right back for most of this game. And when he's right back, that creates like the Trent, Salah, Szoboszlai triangle that Lucien was highlighting. Probably means that Trent is going to play mostly right back. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Just wait to see how that unfolds.
Sorry, Ducky.
Wait to see how.
I mean, I've just done the duck shoot just then. As I say, I got my double barrel shotgun out for him. XG of 0, XA of nothing. Ducky, I'm sorry, mate. I love you really, but no, I noticed how deep he was. It was very noticeable how deep he was. The stat point that out as well. Very impressed with Chilwell. I thought he was extremely attacking, and I think absolutely bordering essential. I think once we get into game week 3 and 4, hate to say it, I already own him, thank goodness. But yeah, I quite like the idea, guys, of a Chilwell James double up. How about that? That sounds interesting. I quite like that one.
I'm not seeing. I don't know. I'm not down with the James love. Like James is further back. He's not around the box.
Yeah, I know. But I'm just. Well, look,
like
I enjoy watching him play. Sometimes I'd rather have someone play than not, right? Like Gabriel. So, he's a Gabriel replacement, quite frankly, by the looks of things, possibly.
Okay, so James is better than somebody that doesn't play. But my question is, why is he? I mean, and I've seen people like interested in him as an asset. So I mean the question, why? Like, what was it about James' performance? Maybe Lucien can tell us what's the upside.
I thought he looked fairly attacking. Lucien, what about James? Is James an option?
Yes, because James finally has a partner to work with on the right side. The thing about Chelsea is that I don't know if this is a one-off, but they've actually made their 3-5-2 lopsided Did you see Chilwell defend? No, because they shifted their entire back three to the left so that Levi Colwill dealt with Salah directly. That meant that there's a spare man on the right side where Sterling worked with James extremely closely just to set up Nico Jackson. I hope that continues. So if that continues against West Ham, yes, James is an absolute buy.
Okay, perfect. So, right, moving on to the very last fixture of the weekend. And, well, I'm going to call it a snore fest because I fell asleep. I've never been so bloody bored in all my life. What a shit game this was. Quite frankly, it'd have been last on match of the day if there'd have been a match of the day, if this was a Saturday. The NetxG really liked Manchester United. It really didn't like Wolves. Wolves were completely derailed midweek. We thought that Lopetegui would disappear. He did. But, of course, what we didn't then see is the bounce coming. And, of course, the fixture difficulty really liked Manchester United, both attack and defence 5. I mean, quite frankly, 4-0 wouldn't have been at all surprising for me. If you'd have asked me before Monday, I'd have said 4-0. Manchester United, I think the season hasn't even started yet for them. They were poor. Captaincy metric down the pan. Predictions for Bruno and Rashford to be 2 of the highest scorers this week down the pan. Lucian, put me out of my misery.
Right. So the problem with Wolves is that, number one, they are absolutely weak on the flanks. They have nobody competent on the left because they're either too young like Bueno or they're too mediocre like Johnny. So in that sense, United just didn't punish them. They had Anthony on the right and a very young Garnacho on the left, and they decided to play Rashford striker. So that's the first mistake. The second was assuming that they could actually take control of the game, and they just ran into the 2 most press-resistant midfielders in the league besides Bruno Guimaraes and Bernardo Silva. Matheus Nunes as well as Matheus Cunha both just absolutely ran through Man United, and that was something that we cannot account for. I think the thing about Wolves is that people assume that it's new manager bounce, but it's just the same habits, but extremely exaggerated. They were still really weak down the flanks. People still targeted Ainouri, and it's just that Anthony couldn't take advantage, really. So it had to be Aaron Wan-Bissaka that took advantage of their frailty to cross for Varane's header. I mean, yeah. What I'd also like to point out is that Bruno is not the center of the universe. We'd love to think so, but Bruno is not the center of the universe. There are far, far more competent ball players than him, such as Casemiro from deeper midfield because Bruno occupies space, as well as any other fullback that ventures forward. Really, Luke Shaw was in more dangerous positions than Marcus Rashford and Bruno Fernandes combined. So I'll end it at that.
Okay.
Erik ten Hag is a fucking fraud. This guy, dude, you bring in Casemiro last season. Fucking pay for Casemiro, who's old, but he's gonna make an impact. You make 3 signings this offseason, so 1/3 of them is Mount, your central midfield. And what do? You fucking play the ball wide to Garnacho and fucking Anthony. What's wrong with you? You got Rashford in the middle, you got Bruno in the middle, you got Mount in the middle, you got Casemiro in the middle, and you're going to play the ball wide. Fuck off. Give me a break. United didn't deserve this clean sheet. They should. Wolves were the better team here. Wolves have the better players. United didn't deserve the clean sheet. And anybody with United clean sheets, you got lucky as fuck. It's a jammy fucking clean sheet. Wolves were higher XG, way more shots. Wolves, here's one thing, like, we've been trashing Wolves, right? But one thing, and I'm super guilty of this as well. One thing that I've been guilty of is forgetting the quality of players Wolves have. Their roster it's better than Palace's roster. It's better than anybody, like, basically, like, I don't know, like 12th and below. If we look at Wolves' roster, Pedro Neto, quality player. Paulo Sarabia, quality player. Matheus Cunha, Gomez, Lemina, Nunez. I mean, Gary O'Neill has them set up in this really nice kind of way. And I think Wolves are going to start surprising people. And I don't want to read too much into Manchester United here from this one, because if Erik ten, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe if he adapts for the second match away, then fine. But if you're going to do the same thing, I'm going to be trashing United the way I've trashed Spurs in the past. I'll tell you that.
My swear, I have a swear jar.
I love it.
I'm a teacher in real life and I have a swear jar. I swear the swear jar is going to be so full right now.
There's just a few comments.
Yeah, keep playing like
the
this,
rant
United,
is
it will be.
happening. Gabe's testosterone is off the roof. I love it. And that's that, boys. We've been through the fixtures. So, and what we're not going to do is, I know there's been a few questions in the chat. We're not going to take any. We're not going to take any questions tonight because we're on tomorrow, aren't we, for the matchup show. And we've got Bradley Curry. Is it tomorrow? No, it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. What is it today? Tuesday or Wednesday? Or is it Monday? What day is it?
It's Tuesday where I am.
It's Tuesday. It's Wednesday. For God's sake, I don't even know what day of the week it is. We're on tomorrow night as well, aren't we, Gabe? For the matchup show with Bradley Curry, the Scotland and Sussex cricketer, who is well known for I think, probably one of the best catches that I've ever seen taken. Gabe, you have 24 hours, sir, to scrub up on your cricket, because I am going to ask you about the rules of cricket tomorrow.
Oh God, please no. You don't want me talking about cricket when Brad
No,
is
I
on
just
the
want
show.
to try. I just want you to try and explain things. We were talking about bowling maidens over earlier, but I think people thought it was girls.
I just have one question about cricket.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
What do you mean, why? What do you mean, why? Half our hollers are from India. You can't say that.
Oops. That's what I get in this country when I ask people why baseball.
Right. Well, fair enough. Anyway, let me get us out of here. First things first. Mini League HUP69D. Also, if you're a Patreon or a hauler like Lucian here, and don't disappear this time, Lucian, because you're a super hauler. So I'm going to say that again. You also get access to the Mini League as well. Prize Mini League, which we're running. Hit like, hit subscribe, everybody. Just a very quick shout out to the haulers. So we've got Super Haulers, Thingbob, David Harrison, FPL Nima, Zach, Haberboy, Daddy Bot, Greenback Golf, FPL Robbie. We've got Dread on haulers, FPL Craig, Podner, Kevin Rose, Connor Hunt, Donny FPL, Oscar Arias, FPL Teacher, Blonde, S. Scott as M. Blonde's top of the Mini League, by the way. She played a bench boost. She wouldn't tell me in the chat on Friday night that she was playing a bench boost. She kept that really quiet. Tom Gorsuch, Thavindra Raj, Lindsay, FPL DG Boy, Akshay, Dom, Claire, Catherine, Sal the Samurai, Harry Not Kane. Well, there we go. I'll have to change your name. Neil, Sebastian Koo, Benjamin Lockwood, FPL Rubber Ducky, Quack Quack, Bang, Trent Alexander Arnold, Neil Zappels, Nick Khan, Big Mike, FPL Discomfort. I like that. General Zod. Who's that? What's that? Gladys Street Preachers. That must be an Everton fan. Jack M, FPL fan, FPL Bondos, Jamie Baker. Hello, Jamie's back. And Brett M. Gentlemen, I would like to say thank you so much. It's been lit this tonight. The chat's been banging. We've got 57 people in. If you haven't hit like, please do. If you haven't hit subscribe, please do. If you want to be a hauler, please do. Lucian, thank you so much. Your insight is first class.
It's fantastic, man. Love it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a long time, but I absolutely love working with you guys. Look forward to more next week.
Well, we did try quite a bit when I was in Singapore to get something sorted, didn't we? We could just never get diaries together. Gabe, this has been one of your dreams, I think, to do something with Lucian recently.
Yeah, and to review the matchups, it's so great to have like basically an independent peer review of the work, which is fantastic, and it helps bring out the lessons. So who better for that than teacher?
Well, yes, I always say that teacher's the person who makes me the most uncomfortable on the matchup show I've ever had.
Yes.
That's why it's much better. I don't like teachers, Lucy, you see. Never have done, never will do. So yeah, but tonight I managed to just control you for a change. So I'm actually back on I'm actually back on top. There we go. Anyway, gents, 59 minutes, 29 seconds. It's time for us to get out of here. Thank you so much, and we will see you all tomorrow night. Take care. Bye-bye.
Peace.